Tulsi Gabbard was on a recent episode of Late Night with Stephen Colbert, and even though I wasn't really expecting much from Stephen Colbert, I wasn't honestly expecting it to be this bad. I know that over the course of the years, he's become a lot more establishment friendly. I mean, I was assuming that he would try to grill her about Assad and pretty much everything that media hacks do, but I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. Now, I can't play the entire clip for you because CBS is really draconian with copyright strikes. So if I play the clip, they're going to strike it down. So I'll link you to the video down below in the description box if you want to see it. But I will play you some audio just so you can kind of get a sense of how bad this interview was. And not because of Tulsi, it was exclusively because of Stephen Colbert. And how hacky he's become is honestly, it's shocking to me.
I don't know whether America should be the policeman of the world. But
it is my opinion that we should not be.
If we are not, though, nature abhors a vacuum. And if we are not involved in international conflicts or trying to quell international conflicts, certainly the Russians and the Chinese will fill that vacuum. And we will step away from the world stage in a significant way that might destabilize in the world, because the United States, however flawed, is a force for good in the world, in my opinion. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that. My point is that in order to be a force for good, we must actually do good. The consequences of these regime change war policies has been horrible. It has been completely the opposite of that intention, of that good that the United States should be standing for. So I don't advocate for isolationism. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making sure that we have relationships with other countries that's based on cooperation, not conflict, and that we're thinking through and exercising foresight on the decisions that we're making and understanding what those consequences are.
You've gotten some fans in the Trump supporter world. David Duke, Steve Bannon, and Matt Gaetz, is that his name? Matt Gaetz? What do you make of how much they like you?
You should ask them. Look, I have denounced strongly, time and again, the white nationalist views of David Duke and the racist and bigoted views of people who are fomenting hatred and even violence. This is unacceptable and something that we should all stand up and condemn.
Wow. What he said there, it demonstrated that he's ignorant. And I struggle to call him ignorant because he used to actually be someone who was insightful. He would speak truth to power. He would challenge the status quo. But now, he is espousing talking points that legitimize this idea that the U.S. is an empire that's good. We're a force for good in the world. It's not like we're bullying other countries and we're being an international asshole because, you know, we want resources and international hegemony. We're doing it because we're good. Really, Stephen? You're gonna say this, of all people? It just goes to show you that without Jon Stewart there to influence him, he doesn't know what to do, so he just says what everyone else says. How can you contend that the United States is a force for good when we are currently doing illegal drone strikes in Pakistan, in Yemen, Somalia, and we're literally violating their sovereignty and territorial integrity, and they've told us, we don't want you to do these drone strikes in our backyard. Leave. There have been courts that have ruled that the United States needs to stop doing this. And we don't listen. Can you imagine if Canada was doing this and they were doing drone strikes in Texas? There would be outrage. And if we heard a Canadian say, oh, well, we're a force for good, even if we're terrorizing the United States, heads would explode. But because it's us, and since Stephen Colbert is unable to see past his Americanism or Americanist, whatever you want to call it, he just says, well, we're a force for good because that's what I'm told. Maybe try to be a little bit introspective once in a while, Stephen, and understand that the United States objectively speaking, has not been a force for good in the world. If you poll individuals from around the globe, they're going to say that the number one threat or something along those lines is the United States. Because we're not a force for good. We're an empire that, like other empires previously before us, we're doing a lot of bad things around the world, and we're claiming to be the good guys. We're doing it under the guise of spreading democracy. And now it's not even like there's a facade anymore. I mean, you have John Bolton straight up saying, we want to invade Venezuela because we want their oil. You have a president that said this. And what Tulsi said was important. In order to be a force for good, we must do good. It's as simple as that. You can't say that we're a force for good if we're doing evil everywhere. And that's fine if you want to talk about what other countries are doing, but you can't just look at their actions in a vacuum and suggest, well, if we don't be the world police, then it's going to be Russia or China. You've got to acknowledge that we are not well liked among people around the world, and for good reason. Like, I struggle to call it ignorant because I feel like he knows better. He's just choosing to be obtuse. He's choosing to do the establishment's bidding because this is a multimillionaire who is comfortable. So why turn the apple cart over when you're doing fine yourself? When you have no real reason personally to challenge the status quo. You have nothing to gain and everything to lose. So why criticize it when you're comfortable? That's what we're seeing here. He also asked Tulsi, why do people like David Duke and Steve Bannon and Matt Gaetz support you? And I think her response was perfect there. You have to ask them. Why is that a gotcha? It doesn't make any sense. And if you'll notice, this is exactly what the establishment used to legitimize their dogpile on Ilhan Omar. Because David Duke said, oh, well, what she said is great. And when Donald Trump learned that Bernie Sanders was running for president again, and he didn't attack him off the bat and said, I like Bernie, they used that as evidence that, oh, well, see, since these people are praising you in any way, shape, or form, that's evidence that you're bad. No, that's a really hacky argument. These are individuals who reasonable people hear from, and we dismiss what they say because we don't care what people like David Duke or Steve Bannon have to say because we don't view them as legitimate. So if David Duke wants to praise Tulsi Gabbard, that means nothing to me. It doesn't affect my perception of Tulsi because everything that David Duke thinks and says out loud is illegitimate. So I'm not just going to say, oh, well, since David Duke thinks Tulsi is good, then I have to view her as bad by default. Because that's a nonsensical argument. It's irrational. If David Duke says that ice cream is delicious, are we supposed to turn on ice cream? I'm not turning on ice cream. So do you understand why this is so hacky? Stephen Colbert is awful now. And I knew he was bad, but I didn't realize it was this bad. And part of the reason is that I haven't really been watching his show because I have no interest in celebrity gossip and an establishment analysis. But I had a friend send me a link to this interview with Tulsi, and I just thought, wow, Stephen, what happened to you, dude? You sold out, man. And it's not like he wasn't making cash before, but like I said, this is only a theory, I can only speculate. I think that now that Jon Stewart isn't here to provide his own astute analysis, then Stephen Colbert just kind of defaults to what everyone else is saying and thinking. He is a follower, not a leader like Jon Stewart. And it's sad because comedy in America, in the era of Trump, you have material gifted to you. But yet this is what comedians, for the most part, not every comedian, of course, are resorting to. They're doing the hackiest establishment bidding. You have Ashton Kutcher tweeting out support for the CIA, drinking from a CIA cup. I mean, what happened to comedy when it should be thriving in the Donald Trump era? So, I would encourage you to watch the clip, but you probably already know what to expect. Just that little clip that I showed you is going to give you all you need to know that this was a shit show. But kudos to Tulsi, because even though more so than anyone, she's put up with the hackiest smears. I don't know how she does it, but she keeps her cool every single time. I would be losing it on these people. I would be getting so frustrated because to just have them berate you time after time, I mean, at what point does that wear you down? But it's not getting to Tulsi. And kudos to her, because she's a bigger person than I am, because I wouldn't be able to deal with this and be calm. I would be pissed, and I would be expressing that. But, you know, I think she's a veteran in the political sense. She knows what she's doing.
Subscribe if you like this video, folks. Mike's tremendous, and he's doing a really, really good job. Many people are telling me about how wonderful the Humanist Report is. Bigly.